Do not be alarmed, but I did run out of pomade, so I look like I have a 2011 Justin Bieber haircut. But I think it might work because the 2010s are kind of having a moment. There's a lot of nostalgia there. It's been 14 years since 2010, and I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this because somebody else who's trying to tap into the 2010s nostalgia is FaZe Clan. They kind of dominated that era of gaming. FaZe up, baby! And it seems like they're making a comeback, or at least attempting to make a comeback. They tweeted this out to the tune of 20 million impressions, Control-Alt-Delete, and it's kind of that nostalgia, task manager type of vibe. And they got look at that, FaZe Keep member and a bunch of members' names, and then some cryptic messages. We'll get into what that means in just a moment. But first, it's been a while since we talked about FaZe. A year, in fact. And the last time we talked about them was usually revolving around some bad decisions they made or their horribly performing stock, which is only performing worse. Actually, not even performing at all because it got delisted. If you don't know, FaZe got bought out for like the 100th time, this time by GameSquare, the company that owned Complexity. They sold Complexity back to the former owner Jason Lake, and then bought FaZe Clan for $15.75 million. And that is a far cry from the valuation it had a few years ago at the start of COVID, which I think they're valued at like almost $250 million, maybe more. We're not there anymore. In fact, they lost $50 million in 2022, and now they are worth like less than a third of what they lost. So yeah, they're not doing great. But around the same time that GameSquare bought them, FaZe Banks tweeted out on the main account, "I got the passwords back," which led people to believe that FaZe Banks, one of the OGs, one of the founders of FaZe Clan, was in control of FaZe, which is what people ultimately wanted because it felt like it was owned by this corporation, which was making poor decisions, and a lot of people who are fans of FaZe wanted it to feel like it was owned by actual FaZe members. Makes sense, especially with a content-driven org like FaZe. And one of the first actions that was done was keeping a bunch of members, but also, if you look for just a couple of frames on this video, cutting a bunch of members. FaZe/cut_member. Agony Blaze, Booyah, Seabass, a bunch of members. And we don't have to look through this. We can just see it here. These are all of the members they cut. And they're only keeping these guys. They basically cut over half their roster, which is a pretty big deal because that half of the roster is numbers 4 through 10 of their biggest streamers. They've lost over half their hours watched just from those cuts alone. So that's pretty big. But it's all part of a broader goal. Now we're going to focus on a couple of the bigger cuts that people are talking about. The first one, FaZe Rain, who is another one of the founders of FaZe. There's like 5 or 7 or something. There's a lot. FaZe Rain left FaZe. He's one of the only OGs to have left FaZe, and it was on his own behalf. It's not because he got cut. He chose not to re-sign. And he said, hey, I left FaZe, but contrary to popular belief, 51% of FaZe is still corporately owned. So although FaZe Banks tweeted out, got the password, he doesn't actually own the company. And again, if you don't know anything about business, simple as if you own 51% or more, a majority, you get to make all the calls, right? That makes a lot of sense. And he's saying, I can't get burned. I don't want to be in bed with a corporation that owns 51%, in this case, GameSquare. So I like FaZe. I will not be a member of FaZe as long as they're corporately owned, which is bringing some concerns. However, Banks doesn't seem to have the same tune. He's almost talking as if he does have the control. So maybe he has a better relationship with the people who are corporately owning it or has some plan to eventually own the majority. I don't know. The other cut that has been making a lot of noise is when they cut FaZe member Kaylee. And this was a crazy cut because it happened when she was live on stream.
Yeah, I'm being serious. I got kicked. One of the only members that can pull millions of impressions a week. Top streamer for Warzone.
And she's honestly right. I mean, she was the 4th biggest member of FaZe. She, like, if we're speaking candidly, is about the only woman I can think of who makes sense on FaZe, right? Like, it's not an org that you really think would be inclusive for women, but Kaylee fit in really well. And she was a diehard FaZe member for the past, like, almost 3 years that she had been on the org. I'm aware of it, and I'm not even, like, a guy who watched FaZe growing up or now, because I'm a 28-year-old fucking man, and I watch Northern Lion play Balatro. So it seemed like a surprise to me, and she handled it really well. She tweeted out after finding out live on stream, "Hey, I'm grateful for the opportunities. I'll never forget when I got the phone call to join FaZe, the friends I made along the way. Thank you, and wishing them the best. Here's to a new beginning," which is classy. But not all of the OG founders of FaZe felt the same, because FaZe Adapt, for whatever reason, tweeted out, didn't get a dime from them in response to Kaylee saying that, "Hey, I didn't get a dime from FaZe. I was in it from passion." And then he said, "Join the fucking club. Where's the girl from Stranger Things?" Which is like, I don't know why. I feel like you could just be like, "Hey, thanks for being a member." But Banks handled it a little better. Said, "Today sucks. I promise the only reason you were let go is because a genuine relationship couldn't have been formed." And he goes on to basically say that he is trying to make sure that everyone in FaZe is someone that is like a, ride or die friend, and you fell into this corpo bucket and got hired at a time where it wasn't about the friends, but about the corporation owned it. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but you get the idea. And to really explain what's going on here, at its core, FaZe Banks is running the operation. And maybe he doesn't own the majority share, but he does seem to be making the calls. And the calls that he's making is trying to bring FaZe back to what it was 10 years ago, which is basically kind of like a content house, an org full of people who are friends, who all play games together, and there's like a vibe and an energy that you catch watching it. And don't just take my word for it. That's what, he also kind of talked about on this podcast with Bradley Martin.
If it's about not recreating, because you never recreate what happened, but if it's about getting back to the core value of it, then wouldn't it be about keeping video game creators?
Well, for sure. I mean, and the people, we're cutting all kinds of people.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we're cutting the roster down significantly. We had something like 140 employees this time last year. I think we have 30 right now. I want to cut that down even further to like 10. I firmly believe that as long as the brand is taken care of, as long as the people who are a part of the brand, that roster of 10 people are all on the same page, have the same focus, have the same vision, and are incentivized the right way. Like the corny, like us paying members to put FaZe in their name and having that be the relationship, like that doesn't work.
No, I think he's probably right on that last part. I don't think it does work for an esports org to simply pay someone transactionally and then have a deliverable where you are now like a FaZe, or be it 100 Thieves or any org person. You have to be more involved with the org. You have to actually care about it outside of it is just a paycheck. But he's made some pretty brash moves. I mean, like he said, he has fired 110 people, not all influencers, some behind the scenes people, but that is a big change. And he wants to narrow it down to 10, which means maybe there are more cuts to come. And the goal is eventually to go back to the New York house. And if you know nothing about FaZe, you need to know this was basically the golden era. It was a house that they owned in New York where they all hung out, made vlogs together, played Call of Duty, and had many, many viral moments.
Yo! No fucking way!
Thank you, bro. No problem.
And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. Look at this playlist. These are all videos from this New York house. And every FaZe fan harkens back to these times. And it seems like this is what Banks wants to go back to. Or at least the core of it is a group of friends who will game together, who are all trying to lift FaZe together and be greater than the sum of their parts. Which makes sense to me on the surface, but does raise some questions about some different actions that FaZe has taken recently. Because after cutting those 17 or so people who were considered corpo or not, the right vibe, they instantly started re-signing people, or I should say signing new people. Starting with Max, the signing was announced yesterday.
Like, what is the point?
And this is just a 4-minute announcement video. We won't watch the whole thing, but you get the idea. He was signed on to be a part of FaZe.
You can't do that here.
We could just use this fat bag of bread I brought.
With his fat bag of bread that he brought. You get the idea. That's not the only one, though. They signed someone else today. Silky Season was also signed. He is a new member of FaZe. And FaZe Banks tweeted out 2 of 4, implying that there are 2 more people who are going to be signed. And I found this tweet randomly, all right? This is a little bit of a journalism hat. Take it for what you will. I am not saying this is true. I do not have any insider information. But this did come out before the Silky signing was announced, and it said the next signings are also going to be Jason the Ween and Lacey, which basically means they're about to sign 4 like just chatting streamers, 4 people who are like pretty funny, who I don't think are like very closely associated with FaZe, but maybe it's Banks who's spotting some talent and he wants to rise with that talent together. And to Banks' credit, if this is going to happen, if he's going to pull this off and he is going to make FaZe big again, all right, it is going to happen because I think of one of his skills, which is talent acquisition. All right, and I don't say this lightly. I actually do believe Banks has a good eye of picking up, new talent in the streaming scene and adding them to the squad. So I think that can work. Now, the two things that I do worry about are, one, FaZe's troubled reputation. They do want to go back to 2016, but you can't like ignore the past 10 years. They fucked up a lot of shit along the way. It's going to be hard to build trust back there. And then two, his seemingly obsession with crypto. I don't fucking get involved with crypto. To me, crypto is mostly a battlegrounds for scams and trying to swindle people into pumping and dumping. That's most of the value I've seen, or NFTs that I think are ugly. But he is a big believer in it, and it feels like there are some signs that he might try to have some sort of Web3 involvement with FaZe. I don't know how the fuck it'll work. We'll see. I think that's one risk. That's another concern. But maybe a positive sign is all the FaZe news is getting clicks. It's getting eyeballs. There were 4 videos made about the FaZe cuts and keeps, and they all are like trending. Number 3 trending, number 12 trending, number 35 trending, number 46 trending. Now, of course, it's drama. Drama trends. People click on videos about drama. We'll see if the views sustain and create like an actual hardcore fan base. But that's where we are right now. It's FaZe Banks making the calls. Game Square is the majority owner for now. 2 more signings are expected to come, possibly the people that were leaked in that tweet. And maybe in a year from now, they're in a better spot. At least their stock can't go any lower. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see. I'll keep you updated in a video probably a year from now. Goodbye. See you later. Goodbye now. Goodbye. See you later. Goodbye.